Hey y'all, welcome and welcome back. So Rainbow High has a new collector doll that has come out, Maria Garcia, to celebrate Dia de los Muertos, and I think she's pretty awful. That's like the short version of this video, is that I think that she's pretty terrible and I need to talk about it. If you disagree with that, if you like her, that's your opinion. You are very entitled to have that. This is probably not the video for you. But I really, really don't like her. And so I have to kind of get my feelings out and talk about why I think she's awful. There are a lot of reasons why, some way more important than others. But to completely understand all of the facets of why I think this is a bad release, I do think that we need to go back very briefly and kind of touch on the previous two Rainbow High collector dolls that have been released to just really put in perspective the total picture of why I'm not a fan of Maria Garcia. So I'm just going to jump into it. I have a lot of thoughts and feelings that I have to get out in this video. So it's going to be a long one. So I'm going to try to skip over the least important parts rather quickly. So first Rainbow High collector doll was Jet Dawson. She retailed at $60 when she came out. Back then, I complained a lot about how expensive that was. A lot of other people did too. And now I find myself wishing we can go back to those days. But with Jet, she did come with obviously the doll, a full outfit that she was wearing. She came with an extra dress and an extra set of shoes, a dress form, a couple of little acrylic trunks, a little sewing machine, and a tape measure. I believe that is everything she came with, plus a stand. So yeah, she came with, a decent amount of stuff. The big issue with her was quality. The quality control wasn't super great, especially when it came to her hair. A lot of people were finding that their jets were basically half bald. I had that problem. So $60 when she came out with a decent amount of stuff, but especially given the quality issues, many people were upset with the price at that time, including myself. Then the next collector edition to come out was Lily Chang to celebrate the Chinese New Year. It was the Year of the Tiger, so that was kind of her theme. And I praise this doll a lot on my channel. I know not all of you agree, and that's fine. But I really, really think this is one of the best dolls that Rainbow High has ever made. She was $80 when she came out, which was more expensive than Jet, which I didn't love to see. But I've said this before, that I've bought a few dolls that were within that price range, kind of like $80 or a little bit more. And most of the time I get them and I like them, but I am disappointed given the price point. Whereas with Lily, she was the first doll that I've ever bought at that price point that I wasn't upset about spending that much money on her, because she genuinely was just so quality. She came with 2 complete outfits and a bunch of accessories. She had her stand, and then she also had a nice display box. I'm not an inbox collector, so it wasn't like the biggest deal for me, but I do think it's important to note that she did come with a very beautifully designed box, whereas Jet was just in basically a regular box. And yeah, pretty much across the board, the quality and the design with Lily was much, much stronger than Jet. She just was a beautiful doll. I really do love her. So $80 more expensive, but came with a good amount of stuff and was a lot higher quality than Jet was. So that was good. So between those two, you think, okay, MGA and Rainbow High have really listened to their consumers. They heard how dissatisfied people were about Jet Dawson, and they did a lot better with Lily. So you'd expect that the next collector edition would be even better. And unfortunately, that's not the case. First and most importantly, Maria Garcia is supposed to be Dia de los Muertos inspired, as I said. It's a holiday that originated in Mexico and is celebrated in Mexican communities all around the world, and it's just meant to remember and celebrate their lost loved ones. It's a holiday that is full of very bright colors and very recognizable iconography, and other dolls have been made in the past that have been inspired by this day, which we will get to in a second. All that to say that it's pretty distinct inspiration, it's pretty easy to draw from, so it should be really, really hard to mess up, and yet I still feel like MGA managed to do just that. I'm going to pop up a picture of Maria here for just a second so you guys can really take it all in. I'm sure you've already seen her, but just to remind you, this is what we're working with. I'm not Mexican, I'm just some white dude on the internet. First of all, I say that to say that it is more important to listen to people who are Mexican, who are connected to the culture that this doll is trying to pull inspiration from, because they're the most important people in this scenario. I will have one Instagram post linked in the description down below from someone of Mexican descent talking about why they don't like this doll. So that's a good place to start, but I would encourage you to listen to them above me. I'm just kind of looking at factual issues, not on a personal level, why this doll is bad, if that makes sense. And secondly, I say, I'm just some white dude to say that I'm not the most familiar with this holiday. I know a little bit about it, but I've never celebrated. I'm not entrenched in this culture. I don't know the most. That being said, though, when I think of Dia de los Muertos, I can picture in my head what that looks like. I can picture the colors and the flowers and what people might wear when they celebrate this, and the sugar skulls. So even I can picture that in my head. And upon first seeing Maria Garcia's stock photos, I couldn't place my finger on what it was that was wrong. I had to do some research to like identify what it was. But even outside the culture, I was able to look at it and be like, something feels off. Like, this doesn't feel quite right. So why isn't it right? First of all, the flowers all across the doll are roses. Traditionally, marigolds are the flower that is associated with Dia de los Muertos. And it took me literally a 10-second Google search to confirm that. Not only was I able to confirm that within 10 seconds, but also I was able to learn that it's not just an aesthetic thing. It's not like people just picked marigolds and were like, let's go with this because they're pretty. It's actually rooted in a tradition that goes back all the way to the period of the Aztecs. So like the marigolds are not just a pretty flower that you use to celebrate Day of the Dead. They have a significance to them. So within 10 seconds, I was able to learn it's marigolds, not roses, and learn that there's a reason why it's marigolds. So not only is that information that is very easily accessible, I am assuming that someone on the team for this doll had access to Google, but it's also important information. It's not just an aesthetic choice that you can just swap out the flowers. It's like, there's a reason for that, so it's a little weird for them to decide that roses are for some reason more suited to Maria Garcia's design. Secondly, the dress that Maria is wearing is inspired by flamenco dress, which is fine. That is a style, that also has cultural ties. So like any other situation, it would be cool to have a doll that was wearing flamenco style. Like that would be fine. The problem is that flamenco style comes from Spain, not Mexico. So to have it in a doll that is inspired by a Mexican holiday is a little bit odd. So far it looks like MGA isn't going to pull a Lila Yamamoto and make Maria Garcia have both Mexican and Spanish heritage. They could change it up, you never know, but thus far it doesn't look like they're going to. But even if they did, here's the thing. Lila Yamamoto was pulling inspiration from her Chinese and her Japanese roots in her day-to-day fashion choices. So while I still believe that that was just something that MGA decided to do when they realized that they had made a mistake and make her multicultural to kind of gloss over their mistake, that at least makes sense. But I don't think, maybe this is just me, but for me, I think that a doll that is specifically meant to pay homage to a Mexican holiday is not the right time to bring in another culture as well. I feel like there's a time and place for that, and this is maybe not it. Again, could be wrong, but I just feel like it's a little weird. There have also been complaints about Maria Garcia having that as her name. A lot of people feel like it's kind of just a generic name and that MGA didn't really try to come up with anything creative or anything that didn't sound almost like a stereotype. Again, I really don't feel like it's my place to weigh in on that, but I know that there have been a lot of people who are Mexican who feel like that's not the best name that they could have chosen. So I just wanted to put that in there so that you are aware of it. Not really my place to say anything there, but that's also a problem that has been going on. Moving away from the slightly more serious stuff, Maria does come with one full outfit, including a sombrero. While the sombrero is not a hat that is specifically associated with Dia de los Muertos, it does at least originate from the right country, so I guess props to Rainbow High for that. She also comes with a separate headdress of flowers, which is appropriate, except for the fact that, once again, they are roses, not marigolds, a purse, a stand, and then a light-up display box. On a personal note, I don't really like her color scheme. I said earlier, Dia de los Muertos is a very colorful holiday. There are a lot of colors that MGA could have chosen when designing this doll, and I just don't think that they did the best. I feel like the red and the purple are kind of discordant. They're not like the same tone, and to me, they don't go together very well. That's definitely not the most important complaint I have with this doll, but it is something that I dislike. I also think that the sugar skull that is painted onto her face just looks really weird. I don't know if it's the placement or the design or what it is, but it just looks really off to me. It doesn't look very flattering. And given that arguably sugar skulls are some of the most recognizable iconography from Dia de los Muertos, you'd think that MGA really would have wanted to get that right. Again, that's more of a personal complaint, but I'm just not a fan. So with all of that, all of my complaints and everything, and all of it she comes with broken down, we have to come to the price, which is a whopping $130 US. While her box does include lights that are built in so that you can display her beautifully in box, I would argue that that doesn't make up for the $50 price increase and the loss of one outfit since Lily Chang's release. It's just kind of ludicrous. Like, I know it wouldn't be nearly to the same level of professionalism, but I can literally go down the street and get a thing of string lights for $5 at the dollar store. So a $50 upcharge where the only improvement seems to be lights in the box seems beyond excessive to me. To give the small benefit of the doubt to Maria Garcia's design, I can't speak to the quality of her. I'm not gonna buy this doll. There's no way I'm gonna buy this doll, especially at that price point. So I can't say anything about that. Maybe she has great quality, but I don't know if that excuses all of the other detriments that I've listed before this. So not great. Overall, I think it's pretty pathetic that I can spend a grand total of like 10-ish minutes researching to figure out what I needed to talk about in this video and finding out where specific things come from in terms of their cultural influence. And I have a better idea, apparently, of what is appropriate for a Dia de los Muertos doll than MGA does. And it's not like it can't be done well. Like I said earlier, other companies have made Day of the Dead dolls and they've been at least better designed. Barbie has made a couple of different ones. There's one right now that I could get online for $70. And while she doesn't have the articulation or the light up box, this isn't to point out the differences in like the doll quality of Barbie versus Rainbow High. This is just to say that the design on Barbie's dolls are absolutely better and more consistent with actual Dia de los Muertos iconography. And it's not just Barbie. Monster High also had Skeleton Calaveras. Again, she was not a perfect doll. She had a lot of controversy surrounding her because she was a literal skeleton, and a lot of people thought that that might be going too far. Monster High dolls were always very, very skinny, and a literal skeleton people thought might have a negative influence on kids who are playing with the dolls in terms of their body image and like how they feel about food. But again, that's a completely separate issue. If you're just looking at the design of the doll, minus the fact that she is a skeleton, it's a well-designed doll. Like, she is inspired by Dia de los Muertos and she looks good for it. Even the fact that she is a skeleton makes sense given that the holiday is about honoring deceased loved ones. So like, it's very, very possible. I also have a fan-made design from EU Marcello on Instagram. I'll have their post linked in the description below as well. But they did a fan redesign of Maria Garcia and it already looks better. And it's like, if just random people on the internet with a few extra hours can do this, why can't MGA do this with an entire team dedicated to making Rainbow High dolls? Like, why can't they do as good as just random human beings on the internet? So I feel like that pretty clearly illustrates that it's not that hard to make a Dia de los Muertos doll that looks good and is appropriate in terms of the culture that it is coming from. MGA claims in the description that they are trying to honor the holiday, and yet somehow they managed to just fall short. And then beyond that, they have the audacity to charge $130 for what I would consider to be, at best, a lackluster doll. When Rainbow High first came out with Jet Dawson, it made us kind of doubt the collector dolls for that line as a whole. It was like, if this is what you're starting off with, it's not great. Like, it's not a great first impression. And then with Lily, I feel like Rainbow High really redeemed themselves. And again, it felt like they were listening and they were going to be doing better. And now they've fallen short. And I really cannot express enough how it literally took me 10 minutes of dedicated time to be like, maybe this doll isn't the right design for honoring Dia de los Muertos. But either MGA didn't care or they couldn't be bothered to even put in 10 minutes of research. I do plan on making a whole video delving into kind of how the doll market is really dealing with capitalism right now, how MGA is really going in on just making as much money as they possibly can. The costume ball line that is available right now for pre-order on Walmart is a great example of this. They're $40 dolls that come with the doll in one outfit. And that's crazy. That's also a good example, but I think that Maria Garcia is really a perfect example of the problems that MGA is facing, or presenting us with rather, in terms of overcapitalizing on their dolls, because they are seeing this holiday that is important. It means a lot to a lot of people. It is meant to remember lost loved ones. And instead of seeing all that and actually trying to pay homage to that and actually trying to make something that represents that in a positive way, they're just capitalizing off of it. They're not doing their due diligence in terms of research. They're not trying to make a doll that I believe even looks pretty. And all they're trying to do is see if they can take this holiday that is important to people and make money off of it and charge the highest price point that they can possibly justify to make as much money as they can, while seemingly putting in as little effort as possible. So it's not good. Like I don't know that I have the words to express how pathetic I think it is and how sad I think it is, because it's one thing to have a regular everyday doll and say, hey, we care more about making money off this doll than we do about designing it. But it's even worse when you bring in a day like Dia de los Muertos that has such cultural significance and you basically just stomp all over it. So those are my thoughts. Definitely heavy. I'm sorry because this is not like a cheery, happy video. And I do prefer to do that stuff on my channel. I like to either be doing stuff that makes me happy, or if I'm doing analytics, I like it to be more harmless, I guess. Like, I like to critique things that don't actually matter. But unfortunately, this is a time where this really, really does matter, and it is more important than just a doll. So yeah, this is not a touchy feel good video. Sorry about that. I hope that it was at least interesting and informational for you guys. Please do let me know all of your thoughts and opinions down below in the comments, especially if I have anybody out there who's watching from Mexico or who is Mexican. I would love to know how you're feeling about this doll, because like I said earlier, that's kind of the community most affected by the release. So like, that's the community that I would like to most hear from. But yeah, I hope this was okay. Definitely something to think about, but it's important to do. So not fun, but I felt like it all had to be said. So again, hope you guys could get something from it. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day or your night or whatever it might be, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.